All right, what is up, guys? All right, so thank you guys for showing up. Justin, Jamil, Hyman, Norman, what up? All right, so today is our first class of our AI coaching. And this is here's my intention with this. This is a very hands-on coaching process, right? Like we got Norman here, we got Justin here, we got Jamil here, we got Hyman here. Like this is a process where I'm going to be sharing my screen. In this process, like I'm actively building out my software. Like this is the software that I'm attempting to launch into the market, try to find product market fit right now. I don't believe I found that with my software yet, which is why I'm still building it, which is why I'm trying to find the message, which is why I'm inputting stuff, and maybe I'll learn something along the way. Or one of you guys will create something really cool, and then I'll buy it, and we can buy a partner together. So I want to be around software developers. I believe software, here's the thing, is software is one single piece, right? However, AI, I believe, is inherently magic. I believe it's really cool when you could press a button and it magically does something, right? Whether it's transcribe, something that a human used to do, right? Whether it's transcribing audio to text, or making an image, or writing a blog post for you. Like these are all things that a human used to have to do even 2 years ago. And so I believe that a lot of these things are things that I would sell to other people as a service, and people would pay me money to do these things, write a social media post, write emails for them. Hey, can you watch this video and get some cliff notes or summarize it for my audience? These are all things that we actually had to do in the past by a human. And so people would pay for that. So my idea is a lot of these things can be turned as a service that we would use to sell into a software, so we could repeat it over and over. One of the things that I have been doing recently, because I don't like, for me, like here's the issue. In our group project, that's what I've been thinking about. Like, what am I going to be showing you guys what I'm building? I don't want to just build a project that I start a side project. If you guys know me, I have a bajillion side projects. I have so many, and I don't want to start another one. So I'm going to be you guys are the people, right? Like I'm recording this, and I'm going to be putting it in the private group, like that I'm going to be building it out with. I'm going to be working through the problem with you guys. I'm going to be like, a few seconds ago, Jamil just told me about a new API that sounds awesome. I've never heard of that one. I'm going to go check it out after the class and see if it's worth implementing. Every single thing that I hear on this, like your guys' feedback, what you guys are building, like my idea with this is you guys are going to see inspired. You're going to watch these and you're going to say, okay, Jeff can do that. I could build it too. Software's not as intimidating as I thought it was. Okay, this is how it's actually done. And this is how these other softwares are doing it. And I'm paying this crazy high markup, but I could be the person selling this software. And so it might be one of those things where it's like, okay, like this might be big and scary. This might be intimidating. It's software development. If you Google search the #1 highest paying job in the world right now, most of the time, if Google responds properly, right, it just says software development at the top. Right? Software developers, right? You're Googling something on Google, right? Like Google, that you're using a software. Right now I'm recording this, I'm using a software. All of this stuff is software. Does it mean everything has to be AI? No. The cool thing is AI is, in most of the software we build, AI is like 1% of the entire software. And then the software portion itself is usually 1% of the entire business. Okay, so it's not just about, hey, my software could do this cool thing because you created a code on your computer. The issue that I ran into and the reason I use the software tools that I use now is because I had it where I coded something really cool on my computer. It was amazing. It would take YouTube video or Reddit posts, and it would cut those Reddit posts up, ask those little Ask Reddit questions, and then it would make a video with a little game playing in the back, and it would read it with like AI text. Well, that was it was a code on my laptop. The only way that somebody was going to get that code is if I sold them my laptop. Like it ran on my computer, but it didn't work on the internet. right? It didn't make it where I could sell this so anybody else could do it. Well, there was one day that somebody messaged me and said, hey, I could get that software that you built, that little code, onto the internet if you want to sell it. And I said, how can you do that? I've been trying for weeks. Like, how? And he told me a little thing called Bubble, right? And I was like, Bubble. So I went to the internet and I Google searched, or I YouTubed Bubble, and I watched a 3-hour video, training video. I'll drop the training video after this because that training video is probably way better than my training video, right? Because she actually structured it like, this is the steps you need to learn in order, right? So I'll also link it to it so you guys can see that video. Everything that I do now is because I learned that one. I watched the training. I like, hey, how do you use this tool, right? You get something from IKEA. Where's the instruction manuals? Well, sometimes you got to watch the instruction manual first. During this class, you guys are here live. Like, this is as we work through it, right? We're going to be setting up a group project together. You could follow along if you so choose. You could pause the video if this is replay, all of this stuff. But this is going to be me building my AI team, which is the software I built, and adding new features into it, talking about the marketing part, right? Like, sometimes it's not just adding the AI part. Well, sometimes it's about how do you add Stripe in there? And then can we add upsells? Can we add lifetime deals? Can we add, how do we make more money through the upsell process? And then how do we connect the sales process to the software? That is still software development. And believe it or not, that's what we're doing most of the time. And so this is a very hands-on portion, right? Like right now, like this is what, four people that showed up live. Like, this is amazing. I'm so glad. Eventually there's probably going to be more people showing up, and we're going to figure out how to deal with that then, right? In the meantime, like, as you guys keep going through the process, just know that these classes, when you guys show up live, be prepared to share your screen at the end of it and show your project. Be prepared to one day show your domain. Tell us the upsells that you're adding. Tell us the features. Get ready for an interview, right? Be prepared to be a SaaS founder, because we're going to go through the process of not only building your SaaS, building the marketing materials behind your software as a service, building your affiliate programs, building your, like, how do we get this out to the world? How do we, because here's the cool thing. I think it's awesome to raise funds. I think first you have to validate the idea. First, you have to prove it with the market. But once you just need money for Facebook ads, and then you just need to like throw millions of dollars in that, I think that's awesome. I think that's cool to show up and say, hey, look, here's my 2-to-1 ad spend because my software's killing it, right? And then you get a couple $1 million, and then whoo, that's awesome. Those are the things. And then what? And then you sell it for $1 billion, right? Like, I want to go to those different levels. Well, this is the group that's going to have it. So yes, software development. Yes, APIs and nerdy stuff and down to the tech. Like, this is sometimes we gotta be in this, right? Inbox land. Heck yeah. Thank you for showing me your project, man. You rock. Heck yeah. All right. So we got to be in this, right? So this is the group that we're hands-on. A lot of times I'm building on a daily basis. Well, as you're building, sometimes you just need like a work session. So these are my times where like you're going to be wanting to share your project and ask questions. Yes, I'm going to show you guys some of the projects that I have. However, this isn't mostly my time to show off my stuff. This is for you to say, hey, Jeff, how do I connect this button? How do I make this do this, right? This is your guys' time for this. I can't, like the gates of change could only be open from the inside. And you guys showed up, which means you guys are ready for change. You guys are ready to like, I'm ready to learn this stuff. I'm interested, at least, like, that's freaking phenomenal. So how do you guys feel? Because you guys are here live. So feel free to unmute your mic. Don't be shy. How do you feel about day one so far? Justin? Norman?
It sounds interesting. It's just like I don't have any coding background or any of this stuff. I know you can do stuff like with no code stuff. It's just I'm not clear on where the boundary is on like when I need to like hire someone or that's kind of a concern for me personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do hire somebody, right? I do have a guy I hire. Here's what I learned. So from my uncle, right? My uncle's a very wealthy man. However, like it was when I had that job, right? So I had a job a while back. But however, one of the things that he taught me, it was more than a job, was entrepreneurship, right? Becoming like resourceful, but also knowing the entire process. So it's almost like one of these things. So whenever I used to work with this ammunition company, and we basically bought the company. My uncle bought the company, and I had to go to Durango and move the company from Durango to Phoenix. Well, I knew that we weren't going to take some of the employees with us. So I had to learn every single position inside the ammunition business. Every single one. I had to learn how to load the ammo. I had to learn how to shoot the ammo. I had to learn to inspect the ammo. I had to learn to box the ammo. And then on Fridays, I had to learn to type up an email and send that email out and market that ammo. There was one day when the inspector, she's a very smart lady, she goes, she talked to the boss. Nobody knew that we bought the company yet, right? And she goes, "Why is Jeff learning every position like he's going to own the place?" Right? So in this, you don't have to be the person that knows everything. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to know every position. So when I moved that company down to Phoenix, I knew every position enough to put somebody else in the place to say, this is how it's done properly. This is the correct way to do it. I knew enough to know and to like, okay, this is what the expectation is in the standard. If I was on the machine and I knew that machine could do 300 rounds an hour by pulling the handle, and you're hitting 200 or 100 a day, I know there's something wrong with you, and you're not doing something. So what's wrong? What's happening? What do I need to figure out? What's lacking in that area, and how do I fix that? Because I know the expectation and something's not meeting it. So you don't have to know everything. So here's the cool thing about code versus no code, right? Everything that I've wanted to do in no code so far, I've been able to do with getting resourceful, right? Sometimes it's not exactly like I imagined with code. But sometimes it's standing on the shoulders of giants. With code, you're doing a lot of things where the code actually does the coding. Well, with no code, you're connecting to people that already do the coding through something called an API, right? So now I'm sending it to somebody that's really smart. And then I'm just saying, here's the input that the user gave me, which might be a YouTube link or an MP3, right? Here's the link that the user gave me. Do something with it and give me out the result with your code. You're a really smart guy, you know? And eventually, here's the cool thing is since I've been using AI a lot, AI has taught me how to set up APIs, which is a code that responds from an input, from an external source, right? So you over time, you might learn how to, but a lot of times there's an API for it, right? If there's a couple things that I believe if you could learn in software development, you could pretty much connect anything, right? If you could learn how to build a user interface, which it's all drag and drop. It's just, I want text on the page. Well, click on the text and move it over and put it on the page, right? So building a user interface, then making it where you could connect to an external API. Well, that's the only codey part that you have to learn. Well, conveniently, I now connect those in seconds. Copy, paste, bam, I'm done. Right? Like, if you've ever used ClickFunnels or High Level or any page builder, you use a no-code software. You've absolutely have. 1,000%. If you use like ClickFunnels or any of that, like that essentially is no-code builder. Now, here's the cool thing. Those things have it's almost like, you know how you drag a button in ClickFunnels, you drag a button onto the page and then you tell that button what to do. And it gives you like 3 or 4 options. Do you want to go to this page? Do you want to send an email? Right? All that. Well, with no code software and builders, well, now you're just saying what you want that button to do. And it's more in depth. It might take the input from this field, send it over here, run it with the API, save it in the database, and then display it on the screen. right? Like it's a little bit more freedom, right? More creativity, like, ooh, wow, I could do this. Somebody says something on the internet and they're like, oh, could your software do that? And you're like, yep, watch me. And that's what we could do with this, right? Like with code, sometimes you're like, here's the thing is I code on Roblox. I actually like coding. I'm not throwing rocks at coding in the sense of I hate coders. However, when I'm trying to launch something from production, remember I said AI is 1% of the entire software. And then the software portion itself is 1% of the entire business, right? You guys, does that make sense? Like, so we are not just building the software. If you get to the point, so here's what I also learned, right? Is sometimes in order for people to hang out with me and work with me in my business, well, I have to pay them, right? If they're going to work for me in my business, well, I have to pay them. Well, sometimes you have to be the one that has to be resourceful and take initiative first in order for something to come and be created. If you have the money and you're balling, well, I wouldn't recommend just hiring someone and say, build me this software. No, I would still recommend learning the basics just in case you have to switch and you don't get quote unquote vendor locked into a developer. Right now, you know, hey, look, like I see that we built the UI. I see that we built the user interface, the workflows. Let's hire another guy, or maybe this isn't working. Let's bring in a new, but you know at least what to do. That answer your question, Norman?
I said it'll be cool if you could list out what the basics are. Like, I mean, in terms of like if you don't have any coding backgrounds, like what should I start to look at? All these languages and all this stuff.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna go over the basics today.
Okay.
Like, we're just kind of sharing the screen and getting to know each other, because this is day one of the rest of our lives, man. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm excited for the software that you build. I'm excited for what you create. I would say make a prototype and get your idea validated before any coding. Jamil, that is amazing. Here's the coolest thing, Jamil. Because we use no code software, we're able to validate without any code and get the prototype up. I believe no code is the prototyping process. However, once you build it and you realize, like, okay, I could do all of this in no code, and then all the coders are saying, well, now take it to code, take it to code, take it to code. And I'm like, but why? But why? It works. It works on $30 a month. Why am I going into code right now? The code guy sounds expensive. I did it for free. I built it myself in a weekend. That's the power of no code. And knowing that you could hire somebody. Now, here's the thing, right? You guys are going to be in this group. Some of you guys are going to be like, oh man, I'm a software developer. I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. And then some of you guys are going to say, I have an idea, but I'm not the guy that's going to build it. Right? Well, you guys just need to hang out with each other. You know what I mean? That's it. You guys just need to hey, hi buddy. And hey buddy, you guys have an idea, right? Steve Jobs met Steve with Wozniak, right? Steve Jobs, Wozniak was the guy that wanted to give it away for free. He was the guy that built it. He built the computers, Apple, in the garage, right? He was working on it. They were working on it. Apple won. Well, guess what? Steve was like, hey, we're not going to sell it for cheap. We're going to sell it for 5 times the amount that we make it for. And he's the marketer. So sometimes you have to understand that 1% is AI, 1% of this whole software is your business, and the business, you guys are the entrepreneurs behind the entire thing. We're going to sell these for millions of dollars. We have to look big, but we also have to get some down in the down and dirty of all right, what do we do this week? Right? What are we doing today? Because we need to make it where we get our first customer first. We have to validate the idea that this is going to work. And then once it works, then we could push on that idea and try to keep growing that thing. My idea with my AI team is I'm looking for that one feature, even though my AI team has 100 freaking million features. I'm looking for that one feature that I could push on with ads and I could push on with whatever direction. And then people are like, I want that. And then, oh, it comes with that too. It comes with that too. It comes with that too. But my ads are just narrowed in on that number one feature. Because I built it with so much stuff, I'm going to try to narrow down my ads as much as I can. However, I'm still looking for that feature. So I still love developing software, and I do it for clients. Just yesterday, I had a client like review. He's on a freaking cruise right now. He didn't even invite me. I feel slightly jealous, but we're going to have a, like, right. And like, I've been working with him for 8 months, and literally we just finally got to the point where his software is ready to show and take on customers. We built a prototype in less than a month. And then he said, yes, let's, I love the idea. I love what we have. Let's build out this. And then he started adding ideas, and then he wanted to make it look like this. And then he showed me a new UI, and then it takes time, right? So sometimes you have people that have ideas, and sometimes you're the builder, and sometimes, you know, like you got to partner with somebody. And so find out where you fit in. We are going to be making the prototypes though. What you got, Norman?
I had another question about like AI output. Like I have ideas like where, you know, you like the software would ask AI something, but what if AI, like, I know they have hallucinations, or they say something wrong, and then the person relies on that information. Like what then? Like what's the plan, you know, if something like that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times you could solve it, right? Like by simply telling people, hey, this has hallucinations, right? So you could solve it by a UI fix, right? Or there's another thing, right? Which we're going to talk a little bit more about today is there's something called RAG, right? Reinforced Augmented Generation. Okay. And that's just a little nerdy term of it. But what that means, fancy, is AI does hallucinate. However, what you could do is imagine if you had a speech today, and you had to, like, you didn't prepare for the speech, and then all of a sudden you had to go up on stage and give that speech in 5 minutes. Well, if I was a human intelligence and I was a speech writer, I would say, Norman, don't trip. I got you a speech. Go up in there and read it. Right. And now you would go up there and read that speech before you responded. But here's the thing is, you wouldn't read as a human. You don't read the paper exactly as you see it, because then it sounds like you're just reading from the script. You're going to read a part of the line, and then now you're going to tie it into how that factors in your life today. Right. Well, the AI does the same thing in reinforced augmented generation. So that means is we're going to get some transcript from a YouTube video. And before the AI responds and makes something, we're going to inject the response. So now it doesn't necessarily hallucinate as much, because that generation, that input before it was ever told to make the generation says, hey, include all this information. I already wrote this information for you. Now respond.
I'm not clear. What do you mean by inject your instruction, and then the output would be altered by that injection? Is that what you're?
Yeah, because we're building the software. Like, let's just say the user says, hey, I want to write a social media ad for my company, right? Well, behind the scenes, you could say, take that user input and then also include this information.
Mm-hmm.
And then send all of that at once to the AI. And then the AI takes that input and then returns your output. So now behind the scenes, the user doesn't see what you just inputted behind the scenes, because that's the information. Now, here's the cool thing is OpenAI recently started introducing something called the assistants, right? Have you guys seen those, the AI assistants?
Might have heard that term before, but what is it?
Essentially is exactly what you just talked about. So a lot of times people need AI to not hallucinate on things, but because, like, imagine if I made this video right here. I guess here's the coolest thing is the best way is to explain it. Okay. So Jamil was kind of talking about a process that he did, which was a manual process of writing a book, right? So he took some audio that he had from a webinar and all these trainings that he had. And then he took that audio and then he inputted it into the AI. And then the AI outputted different parts of his book that he wrote. Not the whole thing, because he wants it to be on his topic. He wants it to use his words. He wants it to be on his content and his training. If he just had the AI say, write something about social media, well, the AI is just going to give you a very generic answer. But if he has, hey, write a social media, write something about social media, but include this information that we had from the training, now the AI is going to give the answer that includes the information from the training. So you're reinforcing the AI's response with your knowledge that's up to date to reduce hallucinations. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's just like, like my ideas like around health. So it's like, it's still like the AI kind of messes up. It's, it suck. So like I saw something like, whatever, the guys who own ChatGPT, they're like, I don't know, maybe it's not the same arena. Like if something messes up, they have like legal teams that would come in and like protect you in some way because they want their products to be, not bulletproof, but like you know what I'm saying? You get the gist of what I'm trying to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what that lawyer, what they're talking about on that dev day was talking about the copyright. Right. What they're trying to say is our information, when it generates, you're not going to get sued for copyright or any plagiarism.
Okay.
Right. Which is the cool part, because every generation, it's a random seed generation. Right. And so they're able to say this was generated through the seed and then ran through these 1,000 of filters. Right. And it just generates a random output. So it is however, we still want to be able to reinforce that knowledge to be able to create a higher quality output, right? So for me, yes, I could be worried about copyright. However, I'm not necessarily about that. I'm on a lot of times I want the AI to have my business information so it's relevant. I want to be able to say, write me a social media post about this topic, and then it apply my business info to that social media post. But without me having to change that every single time in the chat. Right. So that's kind of what separates a lot of your software. If you ever use AI for software, right? Like, what's going to separate your software from like other people's software, right? Well, a lot of times it's the behind the scenes stuff, right? Anyone could make a chat. That's not the hardest part. They kind of revolutionized the chat though. However, it does the behind the scenes stuff that you have your prompt and what's behind the data that's injected before the response. So now you said yours is about health. You want to tell me more about that? Like, what do you mean by health?
Like, my idea was like to like program the AI to take on different personas of different health influencers. And then, and that way it's like, these guys already have huge audience. So it's like, they'd say, oh, do you want to get coached by my personal AI? And then, go from there. It's like either like health, like updates like via email. Maybe you take a picture of all your meals during the day, and then that AI would judge your meals. And then like if you screw up, the AI would give you like a little coaching sessions like, oh, you screwed up. Let's do better. You can do this and this and this better. So I can see it like as a some kind of subscription service where you split with a creator. And if you get some of these huge health creators coming on board, you could grow very quickly, I would think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So here, that's a phenomenal idea, and I think that like what you just said is very possible. Do you want me to show you proof that it's already built? And
then my idea's out the door. It's already there.
Well, no, check this out. Here's the cool is. Anytime you see something built, it proves the idea in validity, right? So Jamil just said, Norman, YMML niches are not ready for where AI is right now without super close scrutiny in my healthcare legal. That said, you could super train your AI model and use reference material to teach your AI how to respond, right? So that's actually, that's exactly what's like, that's what that means. Is so niching down to that and training that AI model and then targeting that niche, ChatGPT essentially proved that the chat model works. everything else is about narrowing down and niching, right? There's that saying that the richest in the niches, right? I teach, here's what's really crazy. The first like 3 to 5 years of my like, what's YMML? That's a great question. So the first like 3 to 5 years of my like online entrepreneur journey, I was selling to stay-at-home dads that want to make money. Right? Well, like, how much money do those guys have? Right? Like, they're like broke guys, right? Like that want to try to make money online, but they weren't the richest. Well, when we started selling to doctors and nurses with our website building platform, all of a sudden it's like the sale got way easier. They already wanted courses. They already knew that they wanted this stuff. They already want a website. They already want to look professional. They already want professional branding. They already want like a webinar and courses and material and PDFs and all this, right? Well, like a lot of that stuff. So all of a sudden it's like we just started selling to somebody that actually had the money for it. So when you target those niches, right, like, and you start to find an audience that's willing to buy your product, well, the more you solve that one problem, the more your software relates. Like you just said, you want ability where they could upload their images. Well, if you made an AI where they could upload their images and they could track their food, well, AI could scan their images. AI could have a chatbot that responds with all of that information. AI could have all of the coaches' knowledge that maybe came from their webinars, their trainings, their PDFs, whatever you decided to upload, you could custom onboard those guys. And then you could charge for your client, right? You could build all this because all of this is possible with no code. Like this is completely doable. And it's, I mean, like to get a valid idea within it, like, I mean, even if I have to start adjusting our training and stop teaching what I was going to do, the transcribing and help you build that. And because that type of idea can be applied to all those niches, any niche. And now all of a sudden you're doing it in the health niche. Well, dude, like, and then it's branded with blue and it's like, it's the sales pages for this one person. If your ads are focusing on that, you know what I mean? Like it's, and then you're raising just influencers, you know what I mean? Like that's how you grow software. And then here's the cool thing. You could sell that as a template and then launch it in the legal industry if you so choose, and then sell it for a product if you so choose.
Well, that's just, I just pay attention to some of those health industry guys I know already. It's like, okay, like they have authority. People would listen to them and all that.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So, okay. I think in this process, I'm gonna put on the schedule like that. We're gonna teach this is to connect to the assistant API, which is what you're saying. So here's what you could do: is you could upload documents and files and text and all that into the AI, and then you could call it with an API, right? So you could upload that information, store that. You could even make a dashboard that your users could do that, your influencers that you charge a special area for, right? And then they could embed it on their software, or they could embed it in their course area, or whatever you so choose to sell it as. I mean, you could build all that to make it where they could fully interact with that. And so I'll make it where that's one of the things we talk about, and even in the next few weeks. So, because that'd be freaking awesome. And and we'll build a dashboard so you can see how you could update and make it where they could add that stuff. So yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. I just had a different question. I know I saw you had like a Tuesday and a Thursday. I think, what's the difference between your Tuesday and your Thursday?
So Tuesdays are going to be more on marketing, right? So because you have to still promote your software, right? Like you still have to get this out. And I believe that AI could help a lot with creating the material, right? Creating the things that you're going to need for that, right? Like I want to create an ad, right? For the next thing for my AI team, I'm looking for an ad platform that successfully works for me, that I'm not spending $300-400 before it gets a sale. And I didn't even got a sale on the $300-400. So it's just more shutting off the ad after I fail on it. So like, well, how do I create 30 ads to make it where I list it to the platform? Because right now I'm running one and I'm just being lazy with it, right? Well, like, how do we make it where the AI could do that, right? Well, it needs to have my information. Well, so that's going to be the process. And hopefully someone on the group knows how to run ads, because I know. So it's more for the business side of promoting your software development product. So yeah, this is more of the software development part. So
Got it.
Because there are two parts of this. And so, because you got to have a cool product, right? And then even if you have a cool product, right? I believe I had a cool product. I had 2,000 people sign up for my AI team, plus, almost 3,000 now. We're getting more. However, like, does it mean that that only equaled 7 or 70,000 in sales? Like, that's what the heck? There's a leaky bucket there, like, that sucks. Like, where's that? Well, like, if we're all working together and going through those processes, well, I'm sure that, we'll figure that out, and so, well, this is it. This is the process. So, yeah. And I do webinars and stuff. So how do you take that webinar and put it into the replay and put it into the email and put it into the follow-up series, all that stuff. So, yep. Are you going to show us the first bubble lesson, Jeff? Yes, I am. Why delay? All right, here we go. Are you guys ready to learn some bubble? All right. Woo-hoo. Here we go. All right, cool. So we're going to log into my bubble. I personally, let's log in here. All right. All right, so if you guys never use Bubble, it's bubble.io. Okay, so it's free to get started. I think they do try to offer you like a free trial as you get started. So there's that. Like I said, the reason I use Bubble is because I couldn't get the code from my computer to the internet. So Bubble is extremely powerful for that. I have built a couple softwares in here, and so here's what's cool, right? When we talked about that chat earlier, this is my AI team, right? You could set up companies, so you could have that information stored in those, and I have like company information, right? Well, all of these have their own company information. Well, then you click on the chat. Well, now you can chat with each one of those companies. So this is kind of where we're building. Well, up here, I want a little transcribe button, right? Transcribe audio or transcribe video.
What does the software do? What's like the goal?
This one in my AI team?
Yeah.
My AI team, the idea is kind of an all-in-one software for businesses. Everything that you need. Like, I manage multiple clients, right? I have like, if I go to companies, right? I have 18 companies set up. Not every single one's a client. Some of them are like Roblox scripters, so I need them to be able to script Roblox, or Bubble expert. Like, this one's literally trained on Bubble knowledge. And so anytime I have help or need help, I could come in here and I could, I could sit here and ask it questions about Bubble. Well, I just told it what is it about Bubble. So it's all this information here. So, but a lot of times I need to be able to write content. I need to be able to create blogs from that. I need to be able to write sales pages from that. I need to be able to make images from that. So this is like, for me, this is like an entire suite of all the cool tools I find on the internet, of all the APIs. Well, like, there's smart people that do stuff, but then they need a dashboard for it. Well, as I build this for myself, well, other people want to use it too. So I sell it as a software. And so pretty much it's everything that you could imagine built into one giant software. You can write full blogs, everything, but it can also do everything that you wish it could do and make it. And if it can't, then I'll add a button for it. Yeah.
You sold this already to a lot of people, you said? Like, you have real customers now, I missed your launch if you had it. I don't see it. But
yeah, we're 18 months in, $70,000 in sales so far. Monthly reoccurring about Probably anywhere between like $500 to $1,000 right now, because I believe my sales process. I was giving away free credits for a while, and however, like we've sold like lifetime deals and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I do own another software that has about 60 users, all paying about $97 a month. However, it's not on a no-code builder. I just white labeled it, right? So all I did is put my logo at the top. Now that whole software's mine, right? Which now I'm learning how to build white label software, which is cool because I'm going to be launching that with a client here soon. And so you guys are going to be able to have that option to white label your own software if you wanted. And so, yeah. And then it's all built in no code also, you know, so it's really powerful. But yeah, this one has clients and customers. I use this for my customers also, you know, like, so I'm actively using this on a regular basis. Yep. We have probably 20 or 30 users that use this on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that log in and use it. So it is a live software. Yeah. 100%. Which is what we're going to be building in today. So it is a live, there is a test version and then there's a live version. So if I was to press publish while, you know, it goes live and you can use it today. So, yep.
You should just go into some of these Facebook groups and like, I don't know, want to say show it off or just like, you know, find a crafty way to drop it. And then I know a lot of these go high level users, if they'll just buy something if it looks like it's even close, you know, you could like integrate this into go high level, put it as a tab or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That I frame it right in there, and that's
Right.
a great idea. And so those are the things that, like, the reason I thank you for showing up, because if I just focused on that one feature on how to I frame this into go high level and I sold it to go high level guys, that would explode this product, because this is built just for those guys. And that's why we have marketing on Tuesdays with this, because I need that too. I'm not trying to say I'm the marketing expert. I might be good with some things, but I'm not. I hire for other things, and I'm realize my faults of where I am. I don't have the reoccurring revenue to be able to sell this in for millions of dollars. Do I have a lot of users? Yeah, because I'm a nice guy and I keep giving it away for free. Like, because I feel like I can, like, just because I could give you more credits and then I do it. And I'm like, Jeff, like, but it's all right. I'm going to figure it out. So this is behind the scenes, right? This is in Bubble. So this is the front end, right? So this is the front end of our software, right? I mean, this is the live version, and then this is actually behind the scenes. So if I click on this, I could edit any of these and change the name, and this is where we're going to build. You can see I've added everything, so it might be overwhelming with all the little side tabs over here. However, it grows like that. So if this is the first time you guys ever seen Bubble, there's 3 main parts, okay? So over here on the left-hand tab side, there's something called design, okay? So we have our design. So that means everything that you see on the screen. This is like what happens, like if I wanted to click on this little text and I wanted to edit it, well, it pops up this little window and I could edit this, right? And I could say hi, right? And if I click off that, and you see how I just changed that? That literally is click and edit, right? Well, like, super easy, right? So this is easy to edit. This is on the design tab. So I am not the greatest at like dragging. So here's all the components, right? If we go scroll down on this little side tab, there's something called visual elements, right? So this is like your text and your buttons and your icons. If I wanted a button on the over here, well, I would just drag a button over here, and now I have a button, right? And so if it's a very drag and drop system. Well, for us, like, one of the pages, oops, close out this little thing. All right, one of the pages that I'm going to be working on is in our content, and it's going to be actually in the company, in the chat area. So I think I built that in here. All right, so these are all the pages is up top, and chat window. So you can see this is our chat page, right? So this is the page that we were editing over on this, or looking at on this page. Well, this is what it looks like behind the scenes, right? So We have a drop down. We have a little like thing that picks on what AI chat it is when we switch. So if we ever switch this, right? You see how it says bubble expert? Well, if I switch it to urgent care, right? I literally like it changes, right? Well, we're coding that. We're making that happen over here, right? Well, that gives us that value. Well, today we're going to make it where we add a button over here. Well, I don't like using the little text over here, like as far as the UI goes. The visual editor, I like using basically like element plugins or whatever. So they're like UI plugins, right? So these are like a template. So this basically is called Basis Labs. I think I paid $200 a year for it, and it basically already has formatted little like headers and styles. Like this has app shell. If you look right here, well, if this looks familiar, this is my software side right here. Like, it has the name and the freaking site over here, like, and so it has everything. This is already pre-built little templates. So it's a lot faster to use these. So now I could just scroll down and I could find where it says the buttons, right? Well, they have little buttons that have like, it already has text and a little image logo. Well, that saves me a lot of time for making a rounded button and using their little stylized bubble defaults, right? So now up here, I could go here and I could paste that in, and now I have a button up here. And so I can make it say whatever I choose to say. So this has a lightning bolt, which is that. So it just says whatever the button will say. So I'm going to say transcribe YouTube link. All right. So transcribe YouTube. And that's going to be a button there. If I want to center this button or anything as far as like design, so there's the appearance is on the left-hand side. So there's these three little tabs up here. Well, there's this appearance, which is like what's on this and how it looks right here. Then there's the layout. So like, how does it lay out and look on this page? So if I click that, and the last one is conditional. So a lot of times, like you see how I have like, if I go to like over here on mine, I have admin dashboard. But if you logged into my AI team, you wouldn't have admin dashboard. You wouldn't have that option because I make it a conditional where I say, if you're not admin, don't show that button, right? Okay. So that's conditionals, okay? So those are your logic and your conditionals, right? You see where it says this button hovered. Well, if we hover that button, it will now change these colors. Well, you could adjust that here, yeah? In the layout, that's where you kind of make it where it's, how does it lay out inside this group or on the page? Well, so you see how it's at the top right now, up here on the vertical alignment. Well, if we want it in the middle, now it just slightly moved it down here, right? So it kind of lays it out. You can also adjust the height and the width, everything right here. The reason I like using the little basis and like UI kits is because they already come semi pre-formatted. And if you use these ones, well, I mean, like, look, if I drag this button over here, look at their nasty, ugly button. Look at that. Like it's blue, which you can see down here. It's like,
So they have like their own like app store, like a bubble like kit store or something. You can just add stuff on.
Yes and no. So they have what's called plugins. So they have plugins which are over here, and plugins you could use, which a lot of times it will add functionality to your software. So a lot of times you might need a calendar, or you might need to be able to do recording, right? Or like even the API connector is a plugin, right? So if I go to add plugin, there's a ton of stuff that I could do over here, right? The toolbox, multiple step drop downs.
You have to pay extra for these, or are these just like?
Some of them, but okay. A lot of them are free. Like there's a lot of them that are free, and so. Any of them that just say install, if they say like pay per month, but I mean like
I see
very few, and they're usually the ones that are paid is because somebody realizes that this is such a niche feature that there's only going to be a handful of people that need it, and so they're like, yeah, $20, or $10 for ever, And here's the cool thing is if you're a coder, you could build these and write code here and add a plugin so everybody else could use it and you could sell.
All right.
Like this is a Circle music player, add music player to your applications. Well, like 7,500 applications have used that. This is a signature pad, right? Imagine if you made it where somebody signs a contract and you add a signature, boom, like that adds signature to your whole software. And then you could grab the input, save it. Like that's so a lot of times I used to scroll through here, which is why I have like a bajillion plugins because like it's different than WordPress, because WordPress, when you get WordPress, you get plugin bloat,
Right.
and then it starts running slow. This, you have to actually like use it in the workflows. Here's what's cool is once you use it, it implements it in the front end or in the workflows. So now here's what I mean by workflow, right? So now we have this this button up here, and if I go to layout, I could move this button over so it's on right here. Well, I actually want this button to do something, right? So I want it to transcribe audio. Well, I don't really have a dashboard where they could input right here, and I don't want to like make it busy. So I want to make it when they click that, it makes a pop-up. So I'm going to click on this little like a UI, and I can inside Bubble, I can go over here and I can make a pop-up, right? You could use a little pop-up. However, like I said, I'm not a designer. I just want to make my idea a reality as fast as possible. So I come over here and I go into the pop-up area, and I find a pop-up that pretty much freaking works for us, right? And so for me, I like this big area and space, right? And so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to hit paste. And now magically we have a pop-up, right? And it's pop-up 7. So if I click on this, I can rename this, and I'm going to pop up, and I'm going to say transcribe YouTube. Okay. And I'm just going to say here now, if I click on the text, like this whole little pop-up's kind of already formatted. I kind of want to make it where if I go to the appearance, where the background is kind of dark, right? So there's this gray out color, which is in the back. Mm-hmm. Well, I can make it dark, right? And I can also change the opacity to like 30. So then it kind of sets the focus on this a little bit better, and then I could change this, right? And I'm just going to say paste, or I'm going to say transcribe your YouTube video.
And that's where it will like working with the API for the other. Will you send it off to ChatGPT or something?
Yeah, so we're going to want to do a couple things, right? So there's a lot of times I do a couple things regularly, okay? So I'm going to add down here a couple buttons, okay? So the buttons that we're going to add, we're going to be connecting them as we go, but I'll just add this button for now. So if in this group, so we're going to be connecting actually 2 APIs to this. First, we have to transcribe the audio, which is one API, which is we're going to use what's called replit.com. Replit.com is where there's a lot of open source models. So that's where we like OpenAI is awesome, but OpenAI we get locked into OpenAI, right? Which is all right sometimes. But however, I had to redo half my software because OpenAI decided to depreciate or stop supporting one of their APIs. So sometimes it just freaking happens that that's just the name of the game, right? So sometimes I like to but sometimes they have different tools, right? Replicate is like a model that has a whole bunch of like code and different software that's on there. You could make images from there, stable diffusion's on there, a lot of open source text generation, transcriptions are on there. So once you know how to set up with replicate.com, you could use any of their models. So that's kind of why I decided to teach it first, and then also teach the AI generation part so you could use those two to talk to each other. And so connecting those two, once you figure those out, well, you're going to be solid as a developer for a while.
So ChatGPT is in that Replit directory or something, or?
No, Whisper is. Whisper is the only open source model that OpenAI released, even though they're called OpenAI. However, ChatGPT and all those, we're going to be also connecting too, right? I use that also. So like, that's what all this chat is doing. We're using OpenAI and chatting because they're the best AI. I find what's the best and I put that in there, right? I don't care, right? There's that, like, have you guys ever heard that, who's that guy? He's that really fancy Mike King or the King or whatever for that boxer promoter a while back.
Don King?
Don King, right? Don King had this saying that come with the winner and leave with the winner. Right. Well, that's the same way I feel about AI. I'm not loyal to an API. If it's better, I'm going with the better. Right. That's just how I am. So I'm always going to leave with the winner. So yeah.
So you had the pop-up box, and then the person would put in their URL for the YouTube video there.
Yep, correct. So now we let me find this transcribe button. So pop up. So here is what this would pop up now. Well, here is what we talk about logic. So if just the basic, so if before we do the transcribe and all that, we got to get that pop-up to work. Right? Well, remember how we talked about there's 3 things in development. There's the design, which is the front end. So we just put a button on the page, right? There's the workflow. Well, so like if I hit preview right now, if I went to preview and like we built the pop-up, right? The pop-up should work, right? Well, like, however, we haven't told that pop-up to do we haven't told it to do anything. So if I click this button, oh, this doesn't work, right? If I click this button, well, like it doesn't do anything, right? Yet. We have to tell it to do something, right? So there's 3 parts. There's the design, the workflow, which is the logic of software development, right? Anytime you write functions and code, well, that's this part. However, it's drop downs. We're going to show you that in a second. And then last part is data. Like after we do a generation, we got to save that data. We don't want to make it where the transcription is gone. Like after I freaking generate it, like, dang it. Like sometimes I want to keep using that video, right? So we're going to make it where they could use the transcriptions over and over and over. Okay. So here we go this is our area. Now, if we click on this button, you see how it says add workflow? It has, if it had a workflow, it said edit workflow, but right now it says add workflow. So I'm going to click this and it's going to pop up into the back end. This is all my workflows. You can see it's all color coordinated. It's freaking crazy right now because I've been building the software for a minute, right? But let's just focus on this one little thing. Here's what we could do. We could color code them and we could also put them into workflow folders, right? So I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to say transcribe. All right, and I'm going to hit OK. So now what we could do, just to alleviate the craziness, is I could go to transcribe, and now we only have one button. Right, so now it just kind of cleaned that up. So now anytime I want to just work on the transcribe stuff, well, it's in that folder. Okay, so you could kind of set it up to make it easier to work with. Or I could click on all workflows, and we go back to this monster. All right, but that's just a lot. All right, so I'm on this transcribe page, and now here's what it says, okay? If we analyze this, it says when. All right, well, this says when this button is clicked. All right, so when button is clicked. Well, now we get to pick do what? Well, now we can pick what it does. All right, well, this gives us another drop-down selection. So this is, if you ever have the time, just go through every single thing of these and learn what this software could do. These are all the things. You can log in the user, sign the user up, send an email, send magic link, reset the password, navigation, go to a page, open external link, terminate the workflow, data, you can save things, emails, you can alter data, make CSVs, parse data, payments, you can collect payments, you can make it where the button collects a payment and charges the credit card and send money to somebody else. And it's magical, man. Elements, right? We're going to go to the elements because we want to show, right? We want to show something. We want to show, and we want to click on element, and we're just going to type in our transcribe, right? This little search thing, and it says pop up transcribe YouTube video. And then now if I click this button, if I go to preview, nothing on the pop-up does anything. However, our button might work, right? This is why I love no code, is because when you tell it to do something like that, and then you click it, well, it works. Right, like it did it. Like I mean, that's. I don't know how long it takes you to code things, but that's fast. You know what I mean? Like this is faster to work with. You know what I mean? Like even if you're a fast coder, well, you have to build the UI. You have to make it look buttons rounded. You have to set the. You know what I mean? Like you have to. There's so much involved just to get the pop-up to work like this. And then this just kind of dragged it on the page, and then you made the button work. Right. Well, now we have this thing. Well, now we got to make this stylized, and then we got to make it do something, right? Well, there's 2 things that I like to do right away when I set a pop-up. right? I like to make the pop-up work, and then I like to make the pop-up close, right? So those are two things, right? Make it open, make it close. Super fast, right? Because they're always going to need a little close button. So I come up here onto this little X, and I hit add workflow. And you can see it takes us to the all workflow because this hasn't been added to any folder or anything. But to keep it clean, I could say workflow transcribe, right? And then I could make it do something, which I could go to element, hide. And I'm going to hide my pop-up, right? Show it, hide it, right? Now we hide. I could go and test that because I like to prove that it works sometimes, or eventually you're going to know that, okay, like, I just connected that. I can move to the next part. I just did this. I can do that, right? You start to get faster, right? And so if I click it, and then I click it, and then I click it, look at like, woohoo, you know, it works. I did a thing.
Nice.
All right, like, and now we have it. So you see how it says missing element? Well, that's ugly. Well, now I could come over here, and I could go to the icon, and I could drag an icon into that thing. I could delete that other part, and I could make an X, right, to close. Right? Because YOLO, like, close this thing, right? So we make it close. And make it red, right? And then you can make it where it says this item isn't clickable because this whole group is clickable, right? So that means that whole group is clickable there, but the icon is in the middle, right? So that icon is there now. All right, well, now we want to transcribe your video. Well, now we want to input, okay? So we want to be able to input the user. So we can use an input here, and we could see what this input looks like, right? So if I drag that input, you see how it just says type here. It's kind of like slightly rounded. Well, there's a difference if I go into these inputs and I grab an input, and you see how it already has the label up here.
Right.
You know, like it already has it just looks nicer. It's faster.
What was the name of the Chrome extension up there with the little? What is that called?
Basis Lab.
Basis Lab. Okay.
Yeah, Basis Lab. Right. So I think it's the best one I've used. I've used a couple of them. So there's another one called Atomic Fusion that I use, but ever since I got Basic Lab, I use it a lot more. So now we have this, and then we could move it to the front, previous, and then I could delete this. Okay, so now we have input label, and I'm just going to say paste your YouTube link here. Okay. And then this is a placeholder, right? So I'm just going to say YouTube link here. Okay. And so I have this, but you see how this is input A? We're going to be able to want to get the value from this. So I'm going to say input, and I'm going to name this thing. So I'm going to say input YouTube link. Okay. And now whenever I'm looking for this later on, I know what it says. I could reference it. All right. Well, we're also going to want to make this a little bit bigger because I'm going to want to put the transcription down there, and I'm going to display the full text. So inside the layout tab, when we click on the pop-up, we can adjust the max width, right? So it has a minimum width. So if they're on a smaller phone, it's going to be smaller. But if they have a max width, well, I like having full screen. So we could have it much bigger.
All right.
I'm still going to go bigger. And I think that's good.
Some of the transcripts might be like pages and pages, you know, if they're like a podcast or something.
100%. And I'm going to show you how to fix that, right? Or how to deal with that. Okay. So inside this, we could also adjust the height of this. So we could say maximum height because this is going to be for the full pop-up. And it says fit height to content. Well, I'm going to say 600, and then I'm going to say fix, not fix. Right, so that means it's going to use the full space. It's going to be this big.
All right.
Maybe a little bit bigger, 700. All right, so because I want this. Well, now inside here is where we're going to have the transcription. Okay, so we're going to have this transcription in here. I'm going to, so let's do this. I'm going to reveal an element tree because that means it's going to show it up over here and then show me where we're at. So we're in this container. And then I have group input. So that means I have inside this container right here, inside the pop-up, I have this group. And then inside this group, I have the group input. So that's right here. Well, I'm also going to make another group because I want to be able to make it where they could have all the text and then they could sit there and scroll through that. but I want to make it scrollable right there, and it doesn't like scroll infinitely. I don't want to make it where the page is so long. I just want to make it where they can scroll and view their text right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to add a group. So sometimes it is a mixture, right? You do use this stuff over here, and you do use your UI basis, right? Your UI. So now it has our group, and you can see if I was to adjust this, it has our layout, and then it has container layout fixed. Well, I don't want it fixed. I want it a column because I want things to stack. And then it also says this, make this element a fixed width. I always uncheck that because I want it to be as big as it can. Well, the next part is maximum height. I'm going to say about 500, right? So we're going to see what that looks like. Fit with the content. And then down here, it says allow vertical scrolling when contents overflow. You see that? So that means if the content overflows inside here, it's just going to keep scrolling in here. So it's never going to get bigger than 500 because we clicked that.
Got it.
So it's just going to keep scrolling, which we're going to show in a second. Okay. So now we have here is our YouTube link. And then we're going to have down here is where we're going to want that transcription. So I'm going to add a text. So I'm going to go back up here into our little kit. I like their typography. Maybe text large, copy. Okay. And paste. And I'm just going to say YouTube transcripts.
But for it to get the text, doesn't it have to be? It has to be sent off to the AI somewhere, right? First.
Yeah, totally. Yep.
So okay, so you're making a spot for the output to come back.
Nailed it. We got to put it where it's going to come back, right? We got to build that part too.
Right.
Like now here's our input. Well, now we're going to have to say what happens. Like, where do we display it, right? After that input. Well, we got to build the display. That's the power of software development. We have to build everything. It doesn't just magically happen for us. We have to make it. And so now I could grab this text. And now we're going to make it where the actual transcription is. So if I go to text small, and I'll hit paste right underneath this. And now this is going to be our transcription. Okay. So this is going to be, I'm going to say YouTube text. All right. And this is going to be here. Now, we're going to have to later on save this as data. So if they have basically, if they have other ones, we're going to make it where they could essentially have a drop down and pick between all of them. Because a lot of times I'm going to I want to do multiple things with this transcription. Mm-hmm. So I might say I want to do a summary, or I might want to make one day of content where it turns that entire transcription into like a full audio, right? So here's one of the cool things, right? So this is going to be the API that we use in a second. This is a video that I transcribed, right? So this is a video I transcribed. It says, what up, guys? This is Jeff. Here's a full review of school, right? This is when I did a school review, right? Well, I could copy this little review. This was like a 7-minute video. And if I went into my AI team, well, I could go into any one of my companies, and I could go into my AI team. And if I had this transcription, right? Well, you see how I just went to another software, and then I came back to my software? Well, I don't want to do that. I want to make it where it's all in my software, right? So if I click on this custom command, and then I go to activate your custom command, well, I have all of these things that I use, but one day of content is one of my favorite. And then I can paste my entire transcription into it, and I can hit generate. Well, behind the scenes, this is doing a whole bunch of things, but it's also connecting it to my company. So it's using a one day of content custom command, which is a gigantic AI prompt. It's using my transcription from YouTube, and it's also grabbing and using my company information all to write an entire one day of content, blog, social media posts, and email.
Oh.
All in a few seconds because I set that all up, right? And that's just a couple button pushes.
Like that last page you showed was that was replicate. That was the AI part, right?
Yep. This is where you see how it says API?
How do you know which, is this it's using a different model? Is it like a different model inside of replicate? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me see this output really fast and we'll dive in. So you see how I just outputted everything?
Oh, wow. It's fast.
Right. And then at the very bottom, see how check out this. It logs no credit, sign yourself free, no credit card needed, which is a lie. I charge credit card now. And then it says myaiteam.com. So you see how it inputted the entire school review. So it's this entire transcript with my information and with my business information in that one blog now. And then I have social media post down here with an email that says from Best Jeff.
So all this output was from that replicate command, right? Or
the transcription. Yeah. So I literally transcribed it. And then inside my AI team, obviously I've been building a whole bunch of stuff. I have something called 1 day of content, which is it's a prompt, right? So it's basically a behind the scenes prompt that I set up once, and then I could reuse it over and over and over. Right. So like this guy, Jim, he duplicated mine because I give it away for free in here. But if you do like 1 day of content is essentially a massive prompt that I made that creates a ton of content. And that is using AI. That's not using, that's using OpenAI. Now we're making it where we could transcribe these videos. So if I go into, okay, so here's a little overview about Replicate, okay? Replicate is my other AI dealer. You could see right here, this is 1 hour ago, 59 minutes ago. Like you could see this is all use from my software right now. Like all of these are API calls getting called from my software, from my users. Like if I hit view predictions, like this is happening all day long. One day, like all day long. Like this is all day for the last 18 months for users. Okay. Well, if I go to explore, check this out. Well, this is all what you could do on this thing. Okay. These are the top models that they have that they highlight, and then down here, you see how it says runs. This is how many times that API has been ran. I've ran myself hundreds of thousands, right? If I go to right here into the dashboard and then I go to view leaderboard, this is our live leaderboard. So this is how many times I track every single time somebody pushes a button, right? Just this top guy, he's pressed the generate button 112,899 times. In my
who sits there and does all that?
Well, think about it. Well, when you have multiple clients and you're running blog posts, you're running emails, you're running the blog posts need the images, right? All of those things you're doing 30 blogs a day because you have VAs running this. Well, that's what I built this for. I built it so you could run that level because he was my first $1,000 paying client, was that guy right there. Was this one. And I was like, and then he told 10 of his friends, which those are the other guys that use it a lot. Like, and that was $10,000 in the first week of my AI team that I launched it, from learning how to use Bubble to launching my software.
It's nice.
And that was some motivation. I was like, because here's all the thing. All they did was log in and they're able to press the button. That's it. I use it. They are able to log in too. And I'm able to use it too. Like, what? I'm selling logins. This is powerful.
That's another thing I always wondered is how do you keep track of your expenses? Like, I know it's dirt cheap, but at some point, is it what, how are you going to see what your profit is and, stuff like that?
Yeah. Inside Stripe, they have an MMR counter. And then the other day, I canceled a ton of APIs and that I've been connecting into the software that I just don't use anymore. And so sometimes it does add up. Sometimes you're like, oh crap, that's $30 here. The reason I like Replicate this one is because it's pay per use. So the pricing is every time I hit generate, it runs based off of how long the generation takes. So I'm using compute time, not generation time. All of the models on here, if you're super nerdy, you could download this entire model and install it on your computer and not pay these guys. I just don't know how to do that because that's coding stuff. I just know how to connect to the API and then I just sell the API access because there's people that don't know how to do the API. So I just, you know what I mean? That's the next part, so look, there's things on here that from photo makers to turn photorealistic color to new photos, toolkits, high resolution image. This one animates the image.
That's nice.
Right? You know, like, and this one's a 3D. So these are the collections, right? So you could do collections, which means like this is a whole collection of 3D models. This one's a whole collection of audio generation. This one's a whole collection of control net, which is basically it takes outlines and generates stuff from it, right? So it keeps the same photo, but it generates things from the same outline. Then there's embed models that turns words into numbers and edit images. And, you know, like there's so much on here. There's text models where you could do text generation that are like pretty decent. There's vision models. So you could like input an image and it replies back with what's in the image, right? Well, that's an API. You can connect all this with an API. So then they have popular models. So this is, you see how right here? So here's my flex, right? When you see how this is like 31 million on all these things, I'm usually the very first 1,000 on some of these things to run them. Like I look at this site every single day, find what models are the absolute best. You see how it says latest model? All of these models, you can go like this right here is image to prompt and it generates a 3D model. You could build a whole software around this, and there are people that do, right? This right here is image generation, and this is stable diffusion XDL, right? This is turbo, so it instantly generates these. Some people train models and then upload them to this, which you can do also. And then you could sell. I wish they made it where you could sell API access from here, but they don't. You have to kind of go one step further, but they'll host your model for you. So these are all the models. You could literally scroll through here for hours and hours and hours and look for them. Like this one creates loops. So you could literally have like audio loops. This one creates images. To use these, so like if I was to like this one's Whisper, right? So this one is automatic speech recognition, real world timestamp, and diarization. So this literally turns like audio into text.
This is what you used for your? No.
Nope. We're going to use a different one because. So this is the one we're going to use, right? This one is insanely fast Whisper with video. Okay. So the reason why is because this one has input URL, right? And so it allows us to enter this or the audio. You could make it where they could enter an MP3. However, like I'm just going to set up the URL and then maybe we'll add the MP3 later on in a different training. But you can see right here, enter the audio or the MP3 or URL. So if I go to this, all I'm doing is grabbing a YouTube link, copying it and pasting it right into here. Okay. And then if I hit now right now I'm on their website. Well, this is just setting up and proving that the model works. You can see right here, I think this is diarization audio. I'm pretty sure that means where it like separates the speaker. I'm not too sure, but there are models in here that will like parse the speaker. So it separates the speaker from each other, right? The one that we're going to use isn't. This one essentially is basically just inputs that URL and outputs everything else. So I'm going to drop it in the chat if we have it. Bam. So you guys can check it out too. And then I'll have it in the notes afterwards. Okay, so now you see how it does two things. Okay, you see how it says starting? There's some models that it requires a cold boot. So that means the model's not used enough actively to like always be running. So it kind of just like, it takes a minute for the computer, almost a sense, to start. And then now it has to generate after it starts. So there's two parts of an API call. There is one is we got to send the information over. And then two is we got to wait for that information to come back. So here's inside, if we go to AI, or my AI team, if we ever to make an image with like DALL-E 3 uses OpenAI, right? Well, OpenAI keeps their API open. So that means if I was to ask for a dog with sunglasses, right? That says good morning, right? So if I was to do this and create an image, that's good morning. That says, hopefully, right? Right. If I was to create an image, you see how it's loading at the top up here?
Yeah.
it's actually keeping the API call open, right? So it's essentially like saying, hey, this person wants a dog with sunglasses that says good morning. Can you give it to me? And then they're like, yeah, sure, hold on. And then they're like, just wait 1 second. And they're basically like keeping it open, right? Well, like, you see how it says good morning?
Oh, man.
Right? So it keeps it open. Well, like Replicate doesn't necessarily do that. They basically say, the way that I like setting it up with these guys, they basically say, hey, like once it's done, we're going to send the information back to you. Okay. That's what they do. Like, no problem. So you see how it's starting? Well, sometimes it takes a little while. So sometimes you got to be like, okay, when it's done, we'll let you know. Right. So it does take a little while. Or you could do a little trick. So I have a card game, right? It's called Cards of Dextro. Right. Cards of Dextro is this little AI card game that I made that uses AI art and stuff. And so you can make cards with this. Well, one of the things that I do, whenever you click this deck button, it actually behind the scenes makes you a card. It warms up the model for you without you even knowing. Because I'm just trying to warm up the model so it doesn't take so long. Because this just takes forever. So now you see how it just transcribed it? That took 14 seconds to transcribe the whole YouTube video, but it took like 3 minutes to start the dang model. But if the model's already running, like if I hit transcribe right now again, like if I hit just transcribe with the exact same video, as soon as it runs, right? If I hit transcribe, it will say starting, but it will, you see how fast it just launched?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can almost warm up the model sometimes before. And then now, yeah, it's going to take 14 seconds. Okay. So there is little tricks that you could apply with it. And then like over here, you know, like then it doesn't take so long, right? But it's still like, I always still send that little like, so you see how it says, what up guys? Hey, this is Jeff Caldwell. Like it literally has my full transcription in this thing. And it's really highly accurate on this. Well, now we got to take this transcription and put it into our software. Okay. So replicate.com, tons of models. Highly recommend you go on there and explore all the beautiful, wonderful things that you could do. There's just tons and tons of pages. I felt like I was one of the very first people to ever be on this software whenever all this stuff was coming out. And then now people are like, and it's still not even that popular. Not many people know this. So a lot of times when people say like, oh, hey, check out the software that could do this, all they're doing is going to an API that does really cool things. And then they run it, right? So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, so this is the one that we're using. You see how this is only has 208 runs?
Yeah, yeah.
We're about to add this whole feature into our software. Well, I believe the thing that we're adding, the feature that we're adding into the software, into my AI team, you guys could build a whole software around this. You could have it where they could upload a podcast and then it builds transcriptions, or it writes summaries for your podcast, or it does this, right? Like you could have the AI do a ton of stuff for you, and then build a whole software based off of this one input. So there's a lot that we're going to be, or like that you could possibly do with this input. Okay, so here we have this. Well, now we're going to make it where this button does something in a second where it transcribes. But first, we got to connect it over to Replicate. Okay, so if I go to plugins, whenever you start a new software, you probably don't have any plugins installed, but there's one called the API connector. Bubble kind of tells you to set this up whenever you set it up. You can see I have AI Writer. This is OpenAI. If I was to expand some of these, it has all of like the call, right? So you could set up the main call and then you could have all the information in that call. We're going to be setting up a brand new call so you can see what it looks like start to finish. So even though I already have like one up here that I use for Replicate, I'm just going to set up a brand new one for you guys. So if I click on add another API, like if I didn't have any other APIs over here, I would just say add another API. From there, it's going to pop up this new API that says API name. The API name at the top is going to be like the group name, right? So think about as the website, right? If you're connecting to OpenAI, we'll just call that OpenAI. If you're connected to Replicate, call it Replicate, right? Or whatever website that you have. All right, it's going to say authentication. This authentication is going to be determined by each of your APIs. We're not going to set this up. We're just going to say none or self-handled. And then it says shared header for all calls. We're going to skip all this part and we're going to go down here to where it says import another call from curl, right? This is one of my favorite features about Bubble, is they have this import curl command, right? So basically if I go back into here, you see how there's a user input and all this stuff? Well, if we go to the HTTP, this gives us something called a curl command, okay? So this gives us this little like curl right here, which is this entire thing, which is the code needed to be able to do the thing that we need to do. Like this is essentially, you see how it says URL?
Mm-hmm.
If I go to the form, well, that says URL. Well, if I go to task and language, well, if I go to the HTTP, well, that also says task right here. So all an API call is the way when we interact with the website that through code, but we still have to input this input right here, right? So this is the curl command. So if we look at this, this says authorization, content, like all of this stuff. This is the information we need. Well, we're just going to hit copy, right? We're going to hit copy. And it looks like somebody showed up to class. Heck yeah. Wherever this class is. All right. Admit. What up, Jim? Welcome to class, man. What up, Jim?
So a curl is just for the stuff that's in the bubble, like the bubble headers and stuff, or like what's curl exactly? Oh no, wait. This is from replicate right here. This is the curl command. Yeah,
so the curl, a lot of APIs have a curl command. Okay. They have this curl because so if I go right here into Node.js, well, this is how we set it up with Node.js. Well, that's all the languages you were talking about. This is Python, right?
Oh.
And this is Elixir, whatever the heck that is. Then this is Cog and this is Docker. I don't know what any of those are. I just go to the HTTP and I go to the curl command. And then I hit copy and then I go back into Bubble. Okay. And then Bubble has this import another call from curl. Okay. It's this little tiny text, kind of hard to see. Just click it and then it's going to pop it up. And then it has a paste field, right? And now you're going to hit import. And now here's what it's going to do. It's going to import all the needed necessarily structure for us to set this up. Okay. So now it has instead of this original one, which we would have to set it up ourselves where it says API call, we can now delete that very first one, right? And then like, you can see now we have our call. Well, I'm going to name this. Well, we still have our headers up here, right? So you see how it says headers on this one? If I wanted to set up multiple calls, I could add these headers to shared headers. So I don't have to use the headers in each one. So that means I don't have to add my API token onto each one of the calls. It's inside the group. Okay. So essentially if like we could move this. So if I hit copy, I could move this into the shared header. Okay. And then that will share it between each one. And that's the same thing. So if I have multiple calls on replicate, I want to keep them all grouped together. Well, this keeps them all grouped together. And I could say content type. All that did was what you see how I'm manually creating it and then it imported it automatically. That's all it did was manually create these. And now we're just copying and pasting and redoing it just so you can see the manual process and use the shared headers. All right. So now if we look here inside this call, we can name it here. And I can name it and I'm going to say transcribe YouTube link. Okay. And then it says use as data. There's two different options here. There's data and action. Action makes it where we could use it in the workflow. Data means if we have a database and we want to reference that data, how do we get that data? Right? So we're going to reference it, but we're going to use it as an action. Okay. Then down here, it says our post, which is that automatically inputted. There's a whole bunch of options in here. There's a get, post, put, patch, delete. Post means we're going to send information and we're going to get something back. Get means like it just receives and checks that information. It gets the data. Delete means just what it says, delete, right? So I mainly use post. And then here's the URL. Okay. The URL is essentially like the URL that we're sending that information to. All right. So that's pretty much up here, like, like it's where that code talks to. All right. We don't have to change any of this. It says body type JSON. Down here is basically this is our entire, like, if you look at this, sometimes it doesn't import correctly. Like it actually has like these little like slashes. Just me knowing that, what I know and been playing with this for a while, I know that this isn't going to work. All right. So if I go into here, you see how it says this input? This input is actually everything in this JSON input. Like that's what that is. Body type, we're inputting this JSON. So that is what the input is for the entire page. So it has, or I mean, at this description. So you see how this is the D right here. The input is the input for the user and stuff, but this D is the body parameter right here. Okay. So if I was to go back here and copy this, everything from this little like bracket, right? If I was to copy everything from this, like the last bracket all the way over, well, then I could pay. You see how it's like in this little last bracket? We're doing the exact same structure. We're just pasting it in. However, you see how it's like nicely structured now? That's kind of what it should have looked like, right? So now we have everything that we need here, which is our input for this call. Well, now we need to make sure we change it out so it could be dynamic values. So you see how it says user, like URL, and then it has this URL, this link. Oops, gotta go back. Like move that. All right, so it has this URL right here. Well, we want to make it where that URL can be dynamically changed out for the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight it. And then if you look at this instruction, it says JSON object, use these two little alligators eating each other for dynamic value, right? So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put dynamic value. And then inside the middle, I'm going to name it, and I'm going to put YouTube link. All right, and then magic, it has it down here where we have a key, and then we have the value. So now we could have, if I hit private, if it's private, the user can't edit this. If it's public, the user, or uncheck it, the user can now edit in our workflows. That means we could change out dynamically that value, right? So now we have the value, and now if we go grab our YouTube link, we go grab it here, go back into Bubble. All right, and then we have our value, okay? So now if I hit initialize call, it's probably going to give me an error because I don't have my API key, okay? So this is what it says, unauthenticated. You did not pass a valid token. All right, so up here is our authorization, and then it says token, $, because they're trying to get money from you, replicate API token, okay? So now if we go into our replicate account, and we can click here, and we have our API tokens. Okay, so I'm going to open this a new tab, and I am going to, you see, they have basically, you don't want to expose these, right? Your API tokens are essentially like, that's like your wallet address, right? Like it's essentially, if somebody was to hit this API, and you guys were to copy and paste my API that I'm going to show you guys in a second, like, I'll probably stop sharing so I don't show you, right? Like, but I want to show you how to set it up, right? So essentially, anytime you have an API key, you want to keep that private. You don't want to ever share that. It's the moment somebody gets access to that, they could run it up and charge you and hit that card as much as they want. Okay. And so be careful with this, right? So you name it, and I'm gonna hit test because I'm gonna delete it later, right? And I'm gonna hit create token. And then it's going to give me my test thing. I like that it actually doesn't show you it. That's beautiful. Thank you. And I can hit copy my API key. Most software APIs that you use, like OpenAI or anything like that, they're going to have an API key. So you need to know how to use those. And now it has token, $, and then my API key. Well, I'm going to take that right where it says the $, I'm going to paste my API key there. Right, so now I have my entire API key right there. Token, don't get rid of the token part, and then API key. All right, and now if I hit initialize call, it's going to come back with an actual call. Okay, this is the response we get back from replicate. Okay, well now here, down at the bottom, it says starting. Okay, so there's a couple things that we need to think about. We need to, because we just sent this thing, it's starting. Well, Bubble now needs, how do I get it back? Okay, like it's starting, but like remember how I said it sends it off and it doesn't really wait for us? If I go into dashboard and replicate, well, you see how it says starting right here? Well, it's running and it has an ID. Well, I need that information back somehow soon. Well, I have to now tell Bubble to give me that information. Okay. So Bubble has to figure out how to get that information back. So there's a couple things that we need to do, which is going to bring us into our next topic of the data. All right. So we now have our UI. We have the API call because this is going to do the thing. But now we actually have to save some data because we have to save this to come back soon. So now we have our ID. So we have to save that data. So we have to write down what we need to save. All right. Because we're going to build the database for it. So we have our ID. We need to be able to save the ID because we have to reference this later to be able to get that, basically that information, right? And how are we going to save it? Then we have our input URL. We want to save that also just because we want to reference it. What happens if we want to make a blog post and we want to input the URL of the video? Like, hey, look, like this is where we got the information. Like that saves me 5 minutes in copy and pasting that on my blog post every time. So I could reference it there, right? The very next part is it says starting status, right? So I want a status and I want to save that in my database because when it's done, well, I want to change it to finished. Okay. So here now we could save. We looked at our data. And if I was to hit show raw data, this is actually what's coming back. Okay. This is, you see how it says ID and then the model or the ID number, the model, all of this. We're just making it in here where we can now reference these values inside of our software on a regular basis, input URL, and we could reference that. We could reference the ID and it's a text. You could change this. So sometimes, like, let's just say we're dealing with OpenAI, they return a URL. You could change the URL because they don't save our images in the database. You could change it to where it saves it as a file or an image, and then you could save that image to your database. It's not just a text, so you're not just saving the URL. The URL might expire, right? So there's a lot of times you have to know what data type you're wanting to set up. In this case, we're not changing anything. Just know that there's the raw data here so you can see what it looks like. I had a client that he messaged me one day and he says, hey, do you speak JSON? Like, do you know the language of JSON? I'm like, do I speak JSON? Right. And I laugh because like all JSON is key value pairs. So it means, you see how it says model? Well, right here, it tells you what the model is. This says ID and then it tells you what the ID is. This says version and then it tells you what the version is. So do I speak JSON? I mean, JSON just means referencing what it is and then what the value of that is, right? If it's a car, well, what kind of car? Well, it's a GMC, right? And then there's a color. Well, what kind of color, right? Like you're referencing the values, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to hit save. Now, here's the thing. Inside this, I want to send what's called a webhook. Okay, so in order for me to actually receive this information back in Replicate, I need to set up what's called a webhook, okay? Which is just us saying, hey, when you're done with it, when you're done with this, you see how they just transcribed it and it's done, it's succeeded?
Yeah.
Well, nowhere in my Bubble software does it say it's done. You know what I mean?
Okay.
How do I know it's done? Where does that happen? Right? So inside here, right? Inside their directions, if I go to documents, right? As a developer, you're gonna read a lot of documents, right? So it says, how does Replicate work? Right? Well, it says how to run API models, right? If you go through all of these, it will teach you all of this. It will teach you everything about it. However, there's predictions, right? So it tells you about the predictions, how to delete them, how to get them. Inside this output that we used, so if I go back into Bubble, I could always like manually enter a API response. I could always look at what came back, but you see how it has this get link? I could make it where the software keeps checking over and over and over if it ever is done. That's what I did as a noob. That's what I did at the very beginning. Like I literally checked every 5 seconds if it was done yet. Like, hey, is the image ready yet? Is the image ready yet? Is the image ready yet? And I did that in Bubble. And then whenever it was ready, I finally displayed it. Well, that's not the smartest way to do it. Like, because it could be, it's just not the smartest. So there's something called webhooks. Okay. So if I scrolled up to basically, let's see, you're probably not going to have this because you never inputted it. But if I go to, let's see, where is this? Stability AI images, which is this. I have a refine and get. Let's see, there's a lot of this stuff. So I have realistic. So I started using something called webhooks, right? And the reason I'm going to copy and paste this part is because, well, we already wrote the code once. All right. So essentially, this is the webhook filter. Okay. So how do I get this to you? I could add it to your guys's here. Boom. All right. And then I'll add this as a code section inside there, inside our training. Okay. So basically, this is a webhook, and they give you the instructions on how to write the webhook. All right. But essentially, you're going to be telling them where to send the information once it's done. All right. And this is what it looks like, all nice and fancy. I'll clean it up for us. Right. And you can see that this has the code web in the input, right? We're inputting this to the user. We have the webhook. It says webhook, and then it has our URL address. And then it has our webhook event filter, and it says complete. Inside of this instructions in here, it tells you how to set this up, but it doesn't just like let you, like, it doesn't like just give you that right away, right? As far as like setting it up. So it did take a little while for me to ever realize that, which hopefully saves you guys some time. But essentially you're adding in the webhook information in here. If this says the reference docs, basically it tells you how to set up webhooks in here using webhooks, right? And it kind of tells you what are webhooks, setting up your webhook, right? So you can see how it right here, it has the input, and then it has our webhook, which we actually might have set it up slightly wrong. You see how it has the input, and then there's a little like comma after this little curly bracket? Well, inside my bubble, I added it inside the curly bracket area, which is not where we need. So this is the most nerdy, codiest thing that you'll ever have to do is APIs. All right.
So wait, how does this differ from you checking every 5 seconds? This is like, I'm not quite.
Yeah. So basically what this is going to do is, you see how it says the webhook event filter and it says complete down here? This part on this part.
Yeah,
well, as soon as it's complete, it's going to send the information to the webhook now. Instead of me having to check every few minutes to see if it's complete, which it worked. It's not saying it doesn't work. It just, sometimes now this one makes it, as soon as it's done, it sends me the information.
But like this is on the bubble side, isn't it? And I'm looking at the bubble. What shouldn't this be on the replicate side telling you it's complete, not on the bubble side? I'm confused a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set it up on the bubble side also.
Okay.
Right? So
okay.
This is basically telling it the webhook URL. You see how it says this URL right here? Well, now in our dashboard, so first in settings, you have to enable the backend workflows. Okay. So this is essentially giving us an API, right? So we make it where we have an API. If we go to the general, if you scroll down, there's a part that says way down here, it says backend workflows, API workflows, workflow triggers, data trigger. Well, that needs to be connected. That needs to be checked. Okay. So if I go now into backend workflows, all of these are my backend stuff. Okay. So these are the APIs in the backend. Well, if I hit create new one, right? And I hit down here, it's a little drop down. It's kind of hard to see because it's over here, but it says add new API workflow. Well, that's going to give us, we're going to say transcribe. Okay. Transcribe YouTube. All right. And it says exposes public API and post trigger. Down here, it says parameter definitions. We're going to say detect request data. All right. And we're going to say detect data. And now it gives us a URL. Okay. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to go back into my Bubble account. I usually like to open a new tab because you want them open at the same time. And this is essentially going, now we're going to go into our plugins, back into our API call, and we're going to give that basically that URL. We're going to tell it, hey, when you're done, send it to this webhook now. Send it to this link. As soon as this gets data, it's going to display the data that it just received. All right, so that is when the webhook is done. So now we're going to scroll down to our setup, which is replicate down here, and to our transcribe YouTube link, and then to our webhook right here. Okay, and we're going to switch out this link. You could make it, if you want to make it easier on yourself, you could make it where it's a variable, or you could just, you're not going to change this ever, right? So you're just going to paste it right here inside those quotes. And now I'm going to hit reinitialize call. All right, so failed to parse object after this thing. So let's see. I think I might have missed a comma right here, okay? And let's see if that's true. There you go. Okay. So here now has our model, all right? And now what's going to happen is this is now detecting data because we're only requesting it when it's done. So if I go back into this dashboard and we look at these predictions, this is now starting. Well, we sent our webhook information over with it. So it's going to basically say, hey, when it's done, I'm going to send that information back to Bubble over here to this URL.
Okay.
And now we're able to update our ID and our text, right? Because we're going to have transcription text in a second in our data. So we're just waiting for that call, and that initial call is going to give us our essential, like, you see how it's starting? We don't know how long it takes. So sometimes when I first started it, even the image models had cold boot times. Hopefully over time they get rid of the cold boot or they have some solution. I always believe that things are going to get better, not get worse. And so eventually they're going to have it where it does a cold boot. Eventually they'll have faster models that do it in seconds. So it really just depends. All right. So you can kind of see right here, this is the page for webhooks. I'll send it to our group for us. So that's our page for webhooks. So you can kind of see the instructions on that for it. And now here's the cool thing. You guys can upload models to this. If you look at what it's doing, behind the scenes, this is essentially running code, and they just uploaded it where the code is able to take in this information. Essentially, the code is taking the YouTube video, ripping the MP3 from it, and then running it through Whisper, which is an open source model, which is from OpenAI. So, and then they just hosted that code on this software on replicate.com. You could host image models on here. You could host a lot of stuff and then run API calls from that and then sell that, right? There's people that do like headshots and all that cool stuff on this platform. I really, really love these models. So yeah, a lot you could do once you kind of connect. So you kind of see how this just takes a freaking ton of time. So for us, we're going to want to make some type of like loading thing that as it's loading, there's information, you know, like there's some user feedback. Because that just, it's like a 2-minute transcription, like, and then it finally freaking kicks on, which we could send a little, like maybe a 1 minute or a 2-minute video to warm up the model. And then maybe that's just the way of life, right? So you see how I just transcribed this? Well, now if we go into Bubble, check out this. This is in our backend workflow. Now we have all the information. Well, here's what it did. It gave us the ID, so we could reference this ID again, and we could update our data, okay? It gave us our URL, so that's cool. It gave us the logs, which if we want to have a log to display for the user, it could do that. Then we have our output chunks, which is it has our chunk. It has our output text. So it does the output text, but it also does the chunks. So if we look at this, you could make, if we scroll down into this, we could make, you see how it says, what up guys? And then it has a timestamp, and then it has like this, you know, like it literally will chunk up into time. And so you could make it like where you have a software that has like makes the videos, and then it has this, you know, and then whatever you so choose, you know, and so you could do a lot with this transcription output stuff. However, we're just going to be caring about this, basically the text output. Okay. So we're going to go back into here, and this is our webhook, and I'm going to hit save. And now that saves our data in here. So now we could reference it in our workflows and our actions. But in order for us to reference it, we actually have to make it first function. So if we go to our data on our tabs, we actually have we can make data. Okay. So I'm going to go over here. I have look at all this data. This is all the data. And if you want to visualize what data is, right? If we hit create, so we go to new data type, and we're gonna say YouTube transcriptions. Okay, because we want to save this for our user, and we're gonna hit create. And just whenever you create the basic data type, it's gonna give us our name, and then it's gonna give our creator, our user, right? Who created it? Then it's gonna say the modified date, so when was it modified, and the created date. This is the basic data that it always comes with. Well, if we were to visualize this and I click app data, everything is an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. That's what data is, right? It has a data type, and then it has created date, modified date, slug, created by. Well, if I go back into the data type and I click new field and I type in YouTube link, right? YouTube link. And the field type, this is our field type, right? So like what kind of field type it is. You could even reference other data types as the field type, right? So I could call it a user, right? Who created it? You know, whose video is it, right? Whatever it is. But I'm going to hit text. So basic type is text because it's a YouTube link, and I'm going to hit create. You see how it says this field is a list? If it's a list of things, like let's just say you have a directory and you have categories, and it's like, all right, how many categories does it fit into? You could have it as a list, right? And I'm going to hit create. Well, if I go to app data, it has our YouTube link here, right? So you see how it adds it to our Excel sheet pretty much, right? So there it is. Well, now if I said I needed a couple things earlier. Well, I need an ID, right? So I need an ID. That's going to be a text. I also need, I need status. That's also going to be a text. And I need the transcript, URL, status, and text. I need the transcript, right? Transcript text. All right, and the field type is text. All right, so now if I go to the app data, you can see I have all of those in there. Well, now we could save our data whenever we make that. All right, so if I was to go to back here, this is save. Now, here's the thing. Whenever we just saved that and we initialized it and we created it, now there's two things. Bubble has a test mode and Bubble has a live mode, right? So, and they also have it where you see how it says initialized out right here on this last part on this URL. Well, that's only to set up the initial call. So after we make that initial call with our API, we actually want to delete that. All right, so /initialize, we want to delete. All right, so that's where we're looking at the URL. Now, there's another thing. You see how inside that URL, if we were to look at that webhook URL, is what we're looking at? It actually says version-test. So in our test version, in our Bubble test version, this is actually, we're in our test version right now. So if we wanted to publish this URL in this webhook to the live version, we actually have to delete /test version. All right? Mm-hmm. We have to delete that. Just to let you know for later. Right now, we're going to test it, and we're going to set up all the stuff. But whenever we want to publish it live, we have to come back in here and delete it. Okay? So just mental note for later. All right, so if I go back into my dashboard, and I want to go to my buttons on my pop-up, now we have the API set up. If this is your first API getting set up, that's freaking awesome. Right? Like now we have our API set up, And that is able to do the transcription. Well, now we need to display it for the user on our front end. All right, so over here, I'm going to go to our content. Well, actually, we're going to go to our pop-up, right? Because we've kind of built it in our pop-up. And because that's where we're going to do the transcription. So pop-up YouTube, and here we have it. Okay, so now I want to make it where this one layout is a little bit higher for the max height. So let's do 900. See what that looks like. All right. So I want to make it where they input the YouTube link and then it transcribes right here. However, it needs to be able to save it so they could reference it often. So how am I going to do that? Well, what we're going to do is I'm kind of going to do it like a little like, maybe probably not the best in the world, because once you do this 1,000 times, it's probably going to like add up. However, I feel like this might be a decent way to do it. Okay. So basically these are going to be, we're going to have a drop down, and the drop down is going to be able to get you any of your prior, basically any other of the prior ones. Okay. So if I go to choice style in the drop down and I go to dynamic choices, type of choices is going to be, our type of choices is going to be our transcriptions, YouTube transcriptions, because that's the one we just created. And our choice source is actually going to be do a search for, because we want to search up certain data. And we're going to say type, that's going to say transcriptions. And we're going to say a new constraint, because we're only going to want to get our transcriptions created by current user. Right? We don't want to get everybody. We want to get current user, just this. So that means only the ones that we generate. And then we're going to sort by, I want to say created date, because the most recent, and then descending yes, because that's going to give the most recent at the top. Okay. So this is going to make it where our type of choices is transactions. Oh, did I say transactions? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oops. Transcriptions, YouTube transcriptions. Oops. Okay. And then that will change that input type back there. Okay. So here's what we're going to do is our current option is we're going to have this where option caption, we're going to want it to be, how do we want it to be? Dang. I don't know if we want it to be the YouTube URL link, like the name. I don't know what we should display it as. That's going to be difficult. I'm just going to say YouTube link. Dang, I'm going to actually add a new input up here because we want to name it. So I'm going to previous, and I'm going to say video name. So video name, because I want to reference this by name. Now, here's the cool thing. In the data, we can edit the data by going here into the data, or in this option caption, you see how it says create new field? Well, because we're already in the YouTube transcriptions, we could create new field, and I could create a new data type, and I could say video name. All right, and I could say text. And now whenever we create it, we could reference this video name here. And then this will display the video name right here. Okay. So default value, we are going to say default value is going to be the most recent. So I'm going to copy this expression and I'm going to paste it right here. And basically we're going to say first item, YouTube name. All right, video name. And that will put that on there. Let's see. Actually, maybe we don't have a default value. All right. Okay, so here's what we're going to do is now we're going to make a button so that button can be pressed. Let's see. This pop-up, I'm going to reveal an element. It doesn't look like it's fully stretching. So pop-up header, there it is. All right. It's here. Max height, fit height to content. There you go. I'm going to make it where it fits height to content there. All right. And so we're going to say right here, this is going to be, I don't really need this other button, but I do need this centered. Let's see. Inside the layout. There you go. All right. And I want the button to just say transcribe. Okay. Transcribe. All right. And if we click right here into the little text thing, essentially now we want to make it where it's going to display this. So we want to transcribe it and make this button work. Okay, so I'm going to hit here and add workflow. All right, and you can see we're in everything. So I'm going to actually bring it into the transcribe workflow just to keep it clean. And here, all right. And we have our transcribe button. So now we're actually going to tell this button for the very first time what to do. This is the logic. We're 2 hours in and we're just now getting to the logic. You guys are troopers for hanging through this long. Dang. All right, so click here to add the action. What we're going to do is we're going to go to plugins because this is where all of our plugins are. And then we could type in transcription if we want to just find it, but it's going to be in the plugin area. Okay. So replicate, it's going to be in the transcribe your YouTube link. And then now we have our input for our YouTube here. Okay. So we could input our input from the user. So I'm going to say YouTube link, input YouTube, right? Input YouTube right here. And then the value. All right. So that's going to pass the value into this. However, now we need to actually, now that we actually generated the call, now we need to actually do some stuff with the data. Okay. So I'm going to hit create new thing, type, and I'm going to say transcription, YouTube transcription. And you could hit set another field, or you could say it says add all fields. If I like doing that sometimes and then deleting what I don't need. All right. So very first thing is going to say ID. Well, we're going to grab that ID from results from step 1, ID. Now we actually have an ID to reference that. Okay. Now we have the ID. Now we're going to get the status because we want to show the status here soon. Right. So we have our status. Then our transcription text, we don't have that yet. So we're going to close. Right. Our video name, we haven't named that. So we're going to go back to design. And you see how it says input YouTube link. But this one says input YouTube link copy. I'm going to put into view YouTube name. All right. And then we can reference it. And I'm going to go here. And YouTube name, input, value. And then the YouTube link is going to be that same thing, right? YouTube link. Because now we could reference it. Okay. So there's our value. So that created our data. All right. So now what we're going to do is I actually want to let's see, is display that data into our transcription. Okay. So here's what that means. So now that information is, I want to show this information is going to show whatever this dropdown is. It needs to show the transcription. Okay. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say right here is going to be YouTube transcription, and I'm going to say status. All right. So I'm going to go over here, and you see how we have this dropdown? It's called dropdown AZ. I'm going to say dropdown YouTube video. Okay. And now I'm going to be able to reference that. And so I could now type in here, drop down. Oops. What just happened? All right, let's go back. Oh, there he is. Okay. All right, so we're going to say drop down, and that's going to say drop down YouTube video. All right. And we're going to say the value. And because that value is referencing data, we're actually able to get the information from that data here. Right. So now we could say status. All right. And that's going to say our status. Well, here I could also do an icon, right? So I could have an icon here, and then I could do this little spinny thing, right? So loader or a spinny loader, right? A little spinny, and I could make this thing where it says make the icon rotate. So now it rotates, right? So now we have a little animation. Well, if I go to conditional, define another condition, and I'm going to say when that drop down, right? When drop down YouTube video, value, status, right? When that drops on YouTube video status is, let's see. So we want to go to our replicate, and when this status is done, right? So if I hit refresh on the status is succeeded, right? So that's the status, succeeded. Well, so when it's not that status, well, make you spin, okay? Succeeded, okay? So I'm going to paste that right there. And what I'm going to say is when this status is succeeded, I'm going to element visible hide, okay? So when it's the succeeded, I'm going to hide it. That's all I'm saying. I could make it also, if it's not succeeded, I could make it visible. And then I could go to layout and I could hide this. Okay, so now I can make it where it's the flip area. So now it's always hidden. And when it's not succeeded, it's visible. So you could have different like conditionals, yes or no, in here to determine what's visible on your page. Okay, Now we have our status. YouTube transcript, it'll say complete. And if I go down here to where it says text in small bold, well, the same thing. I want this to be dynamic data. Okay, so I'm going to say drop down, and then YouTube video, stat value, and I'm going to say transcript text. So now I'm actually able to display whatever that drop down is. It's going to display the text down in here based off the drop down. So if I have multiple and I just want to come in here and copy paste part of that text, I can, right? And it's really fast for me as a user to switch between all of these. We're going to show you what that looks like in a second. All right, so I'm going to click on the edit. And now we're going to do stuff. Okay, so now here's two parts, right? So we have where it does the thing. It takes the YouTube link and it does the thing. Then it has it where it saves the data. And then now it sends it to the backend. Remember we set up the link earlier? So if we go into backend workflows, into our workflows here, we have our transcribe YouTube text, and now we can do stuff, okay? So we are assuming that this just received the data. What do we want to do with it, okay? So we're going to go to data, make changes to a thing, and I'm going to do a search for. And the type of search for is I'm going to do that YouTube transcription, and I want to get by ID, okay? So I'm going to say equals ID, request data, ID. So now that's going to search all of our stuff, and it's going to get that ID. Well, that ID is uniquely generated for each one of those generations, right? So we're going to change that first item that comes back, and we're going to change another field, okay? So we could just hit add all fields, or we don't want to add all fields because we're not going to change the ID. We're going to update the status. So we're going to say request data. In here, we're going to say status. Now it's going to change our status from waiting or loading to complete. The transcription text, we're going to go into the request data. We're going to go to the output text, and we're going to grab that and save it. That's our saving our text data. Video name's not going to change. YouTube link is not going to change. We're done. On the front end, actually, well, that's going to cost the user some credits, right? Because I don't do stuff for free. I'm a nice guy, but not all the time. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do data also, make changes to a thing. The thing that we're going to change is the user. And we're going to change their free trial credits, which really is all their credits. And what we're going to do is we're going to reference this user's credits and then -1, okay? So we want to reference the user's credits first. We don't want to just -1 because that doesn't make sense. What is a -1 from? We want to say this user's free trial credits -1. Okay, so now if my hypothesis is correct, everything should be connected. All right, so we did this API. It makes the transcription. It updates this, and then it updates on the front end. Okay. From there, we could do stuff with it. However, we just got to see if that works. All right, so this looks terrible right here. So I could come on here and I could update the way that looks too, if we so choose, or we could just press the button to see if it works. All right, so I hit here. This is empty, right? So this is kind of just spinning right away. So we we don't have any right there. Well, that's whatever. All right, so we'll fix that. So I'm gonna say Jeff's school review. Okay. I actually like that I'm naming it too, because I feel like that'll help me in the future. So I could go here and I could paste my YouTube link. And if I hit transcribe, well, it actually, you see how it made that data? Well, now we have data. It says starting. Okay. Well, if I go into our backend replicate, is it starting? Starting. Okay. Now
you just have it pull the YouTube title instead of putting in your own title, you know?
It can if you find a way to do that. Yeah. That's just adding that other part with it. And I mean, if you could do that, that's awesome. You know, it doesn't unfortunately do it with this call.
Okay.
But I mean, you might even create a YouTube title from the transcription. You know what I mean? So you could process your results in the back end. So it's totally up to you how you want to handle what you're doing. And you might say, here, suggest some YouTube titles, right? Because they might not have it. I don't think my YouTube, like school review, first 24 hours, like that's definitely, I got 17 views on this freaking crappy video. You know what I mean? Like, this is not SEO optimized in any sense. This is like so short, the description, you know what I mean? There's no tags, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that I could do to improve it based off of this output. You know what I mean? So it depends on how you want to build your tool is really where you want to go with it. So, but I mean, like we just connected it where this whole thing accepts credits.
Mm-hmm.
You might charge for that, you know, you might make it where there's a Stripe button that makes it. You see how this is only 1%, but then there's so much more to build on the software to make it where it's a usable, interactionable thing where people can have logins. Like AI is literally just an API call and a input that value. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's AI. But the whole tool now has to build it where they can have a login, they can have a close button. You know, like there's just a little bit more to it than.
So if you hit the transcribe button, is it running right now or?
Yeah, it's running. Yep.
Okay.
You see how it's loading right here? But it's running because right over here is this output.
Right.
That's why we use that webhook, because it's starting. Eventually what we'll do once it's done, it will hide this. And so normally we won't have that loading button, and I'll make it where it's invisible if it's empty. Right? So we can make it where it's invisible if empty. I don't want to edit up right now because then it will make it where we have to refresh. So you could make it as soon as they hit transcribe, as soon as they click that button to transcribe and open the pop-up, it warms up the model. So it doesn't have this extra freaking couple seconds. See how now it's finally running like 3 minutes later?
It's a little long.
Took a little long, right? Like we don't really want that. However, our thing should say complete once it's done.
I don't know if you could like put something where it says like warming up or something and then starting when it actually starts, you know? Because if I was a user, I'd be wondering, is it broken or, you know?
Is it broken? Yeah. Totally. Yeah. That's why I like that warm up method where you like, let's just say if we had it right here when they click the transcribe of YouTube, well, we might send a super 1 second short YouTube link to this just to warm it up for us. If we wanted, you know, and then that will like pre-warm it up for us. And then the model's already warm. Then when we send this in, it won't take it as long. All right, so this is complete. However, where's our error here, right? Like something happened.
All right.
Okay, so I don't have our stuff. Okay, so all right, let's not panic. All right, so let's see. All right, if I click on my data, let's see what happened. I go to app data and I go to transcriptions, YouTube transcription. Okay. So it has our ID. It still says starting. It doesn't have our transcription text, but it has our stuff. So it looks like our webhook never fired is where we're at. Okay. So here. Okay. So transcribe YouTube. We have our detect data. Then we have a request, YouTube transcription status. Okay. Well then. That's interesting. So let's try it again. let's see what happens. I don't know if that matters, but let's, I mean, include headers into tech data. It should receive it. I have the plugin here. We have it where it edited this to that one. I have two now. Very interesting. I don't know why I didn't receive it. Let's see. Completed. Very, very interesting.
Can you see the output on the other side? What is it?
Yeah, here.
Okay, here's the output.
Yeah, I have the output. So even just now, it sent it off, it fired, or it went, it outputted. It's still no work. Okay, so this is our test version. Okay, so if we were to work backwards from this error, we're gonna say we're gonna set up this webhook test again. Okay, so if I went back into here and into our dash, into our backend workflows, we're going to, let's see, where's the transcription one? Transcribe YouTube, make changes. So it could be receiving the data. Okay, so it equals request data. So that should be that. And then it gets the first one, does that. Very strange. Okay, so I'm going to detect data again, and I'm going to grab this URL, and I'm going to switch it out here again. And just kind of go through my process one more time.
All right, I'm going to make a coffee. I'll be back.
All right. I'll see you soon. All right, so that's initializing. Sending it off. Coffee sounds good. This is a 2.5 almost hour training, man. All right, so we got our information back. All right, so we hit save. Now we go back into Bubble. And we just want to delete the initialize. Okay. Now, if I was to test this, are we saving the ID? I mean, I just don't know what else would cause it. Yeah, we are. So very strange. Let's check. So we have here, transcribe, YouTube name. I'm just going to switch to one of these. Let's see. Oh. All right, so video name, Jeff School. Paste our URL. Transcribe. Look at our data. Starting transcription. All right, succeeded on that end. Did it update on this? It did not. Why this? What is happening? Okay. All right, I think I know. So I'm going to go to workflows, and inside of our workflow, we're going to say this workflow can be run with authentication and ignore privacy rules when ran. All right, and now I'm going to try that again. My only thought is it can't update privacy. That's the only thing. That's my thought. All right, so I'm going to try it one more time. Name, test, school, YouTube link, run it, baby. Run it. All right, now we go to data. Transcript text succeeded. We freaking succeeded, man. Heck yeah. School test. Let's go. Woo-hoo! All right. Nice. All right. So status is succeeded. I think it looks lowercase. So we're going to go back into the workflow on our dash. And go to contents. Our company chats. View. All right, I want to kind of edit this arbitrary text. Oh, there. All right, and then let's give this a border. All right. So there we go for that. That will make a pop-up. Then it will display the pop-up. And now we have our information. Score. I love it. All right. What else do we need to do here? Okay. If I hit transcribe, let's test it out again. Oh wait, I need to make that little loading thing not show up. All right, so pop up. Transcribe YouTube. Reveal. Spinner. All right, this is lowercase succeeded. Okay. Or empty, right? So we could add multiple, right? Drop down, YouTube, video, value is empty. Boom. All right. Oh, wait, is not empty. Wait, I'm going to hide this one. So let's see. YouTube status is not succeeded. All right. Clear expression. Let's try this again. All right, so we're going to say drop down, YouTube, transcribe. What is this one called? Drop down YouTube. All right, drop down YouTube video. And we're going to say value is empty. We're going to say hide. All right, we're going to copy that one. We're going to paste. And we're going to say value is status is succeeded. There you go. Show. Wait, don't show. Hide. All right, and so this is going to be visible on load. If it's empty, hide it. All right, cool. So now we have a little like interactive loading functionality. All right, if this works, I think I'll just publish this and call it a great training day. So test one, YouTube link. Oh, look, our thing's gone. Okay, nice. Hit paste. Welcome back. We fixed it.
Oh, okay, good.
All right. So basically on the back end, in our API call here, I had these two buttons needed to be checked. So this workflow can be run with authentication, without authentication, and ignore the privacy rules.
Okay.
And then it worked. And then now we're here. So test school video. All right. And now if I hit transcribe, now we should have, oops, I'll make it where it goes to the first one, right? Now we have this little loading thing. And oh, it says failed. Oh, very interesting. So we're going to have to figure out the failed part. Let's try that again. Why is it? Oh, so if we don't grab the full URL, it'll fail. All right. So I'll try that again and transcribe. Now we have this, and it's starting. And then in a few seconds, you could see we could go to all these other ones now, and we could have all of our text.
Well, there you go. There it is.
Yep. And so this one is transcribing right now too. So you could see, we could see it's like it will infinitely scroll in this box too for us.
Mm-hmm.
So now what we could do, I mean, now I don't have to ever go to another software, and I could just copy and paste, and I could use my one day a command, type thing, so, or AI website planner or whatever it is. But like, here's what's cool. I have a AI Tech Times news writer.
Oh.
This is a website, right? This is a content writer that writes for my news blog. So anytime I do a video, I can do the review, or I can grab somebody's review and I can generate the text now, and I could have Michael Benson write that review for whatever that YouTube video is, and inside my thing. And so I just grabbed from that transcription. And so now we have this giant, I now have a transcribe YouTube button in my software.
I remember you showed like it had like timestamps on it before. Like at one point, I remember seeing something like that. I think that would be really helpful. Like these longer podcasts, they're full of good information. It's just like sifting through it is sometimes it's just, I don't want to spend 2 hours watching a podcast. So if you like linked timestamps and stuff, like this is really cool to hear. I think that would be killer.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So because we are getting that timestamp back, right? So if I want to make changes to transcription, I could now go into here and I could say something like timestamps. So let's just say create new field. And I could say timestamps or timestamps. Let's say timestamps. Right. And I could call it text, and I could hit next. And we could grab that request data, right? So we could have that output chunks. Well, in the output chunks, it's going to give us a couple things, right? It's going to give us the text and the timestamp. So we might make it where we essentially save all the timestamps into this, right? Because it's going to say the timestamp and then the text. So we might do something later on with that information. Mm-hmm. We might display it in our software, or we might it might come up in a different way. So it really depends on how we want to display that in our software.
Because like, have you seen there is one Chrome extension? It is called Adify. It does it does exactly that. It like summarizes like YouTube videos and makes timestamps and stuff. And I saw recently one guy on TikTok. He's an SEO guy, and said that company, they grew like so fast because they were making like separate standalone pages for each video that they transcribed, and all those pages were ranking on SEO. So they have like hundreds of thousands of SEO ranked pages from people doing that transcription service.
Dang.
So I mean, you could you could. I think you could probably do something similar. You just copy them, kind of,
Yeah. Oh yeah, 1000%. That'd be actually really cool to like. Where what you just said is you might even have a bot that just scrapes tons of channels and repurposes content. So that was kind of my idea with this is I want to repurpose content, and that's what I wanted this for in my software. For me personally, is like, now that I have that transcription, like think about this audio right after this. This is a 2.5 hour video. We'll like
that's so long, dude.
Yeah, this is definitely
it's a killer.
So, and then, but like now I could transcribe this and I could put this in here and I could get that in full transcription and I could make content based off of it.
Yeah.
And now it might be like notes. So if you go, actually check out this, if you go into school and go into classroom, inside the replays, this is what I've been doing manually. And this is why I needed this for my own self, right? If you go into the replays, live replays, the other day I did a webinar. Oh my God, did it not save? Oh, bummer. Oh man. Well, the other day I did a webinar. Literally nobody has been able to get this. Okay, let's see if this is correct. Okay, here it is. For some reason, it didn't go to the right page. Okay, but if you see right here, it says, here's an interactive note so you could follow along. Well, it says, welcome, who am I, money disclaimer, my background, AI revolution, 10 ways to make money with AI, let's get started. Here's the link for all this. So this was all created from basically what I just did. I grabbed the transcription, did the whole thing, and had it write me notes on this.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I've been doing with all of my videos now, because it's like, that really freaking helps. I don't want to sit there and type up my notes. So this greatly helps. So now you might make it where this is your entire software. So the very last thing that I need to do before I publish this is I go to plugins and I got to delete that where it says the test version. So I'm deleting that part. Otherwise it won't work on my live version. All right. And then I have an issue. Looks like, let's see what this is real fast. You can't publish anything until you get all your issues cleared up. So let's figure out what this is.
But that idea, I thought it would be like good for your newsletter. I mean, I would go look at a newsletter saying like, oh, I summarized this, awesome podcast. Check out these whatever links in the newsletter. I think that's that would have some value there.
That'd be really cool. Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So here is this, and now I could hit, I could click on main and I could hit deploy to live. And so sometimes you could add notes. I just kind of just type whatever. But now, I mean, like, we could keep building onto this. I don't want to keep you guys all day. But this is what I do on a daily basis. Like, so thank you for being here while I build this.
All right.
And now if I actually go to my real software and then the login, right, myaiteam.com, I could go into any of these, such as my AI team, and then I could click our transcribe YouTube. You can see I don't have any options here. And now I could say Jeff School Review, paste my YouTube link, and generate our transcription. And it's loading. We can see on the back end, it is sending over here, starting. I think we'll add that little quick pop-up where it makes it like transcribe, but because it's really fast once it's done, and now we have our transcription. So from here, I could add it into any of the content I want to. So
right.
And so now we have a full tool. So
it's nice.
Cool. Yeah.
It's not bad. Only 2 hours, and people can use that tool over and over. Yeah, hold on.
Right. And if that's what you want to do as a proof of concepts, right? And you were like, okay, like, all right, like this is a proof of concept. Now everybody could go test it and see what they think, right? Like they could give me feedback, and I could sell it if it's legit. If people really like it and be like, dude, like, how can I use this over and over, right? Well, $20 a month, right? $100 a month. Whatever you so choose to price it, with credits or whatever. So, yeah. Well, thank you for being here with me, Norman. You're a trooper for lasting 2 hours and 41 minutes. Yeah. Cool. All right. I will stop the record and I will put this whole thing in the replay. Love you guys. Thank you for joining, and I will talk soon. I don't know if it lagged or hung up or what.